Okay, so this week's Street Talk. I wasn't necessarily feeling Corrie this week. It was like it wasn't bad. I don't think there was too much that really got me going, oh, this is an exciting one. You know what I mean? Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, this week was just fairly kind of...
Yeah, we were kind of giving it low bog standards on the Street Talk shorts, weren't we? It's like it was fine, but I just wasn't. It wasn't high stakes enough. There wasn't any sort of big mysteries or big shocks or anything like that. It really did the job. So we are trying to make this a shortish episode tonight. But I got a feeling there's not going to be a whole much to discuss. We'll see what comes up. So the Stephen and Elaine storyline we'll talk about first, Gemma. I'm calling it Bride and Doom this week.
Ooh,
because
you hadn't told me that.
No, it's not. It's not that great. It'll do. So yeah, maybe Elaine's number will be up soon, or is it Owen that's going to be Stephen's next victim? Possibly. We'll see what we think about that one later. We'll then talk about the poorly Paul story, which I'm kind of going back and forth between actually finding quite sort of moving and kind of interesting, and then other bits being like, I'm not really feeling it. And I think it's all the Damon aspects to it that I just wish weren't involved in it.
I'm baffled by Damon because I kind of assumed he was going to be a sort of short-term character, but now I feel like they're really trying to make him...
I know, I'm thinking, why is he still here?
Why are we rehabilitating?
Yeah, and are they? Is he telling the truth? I don't really know. I'm loving the Paul and Dee Dee relationship, but Damon, he's not needed. And not only that, but he's also got his Damon in the Sack storyline, hasn't he? Which is, this week was all about the late night licensing approval, which, come on, Bennett, I was not feeling that.
Sarah Louise is like, don't get a late night license because then we can't spend any more evenings together. It's like last year it was the boundary dispute. This year it's late night licensing. I'll tell you what.
It's not really a recipe for thrills and spills, is it?
In America, they kind of like love the idea of like hotshot, high-flying lawyers and walking around with sharp suits and attorney at law and like all these different TV programs where they have all these sexy people doing law things. And in England, it's like boundary dispute.
It's true to life.
Exactly, but it's more realistic here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to wear a wig when you go and wear your robes, and you need to know all the laws.
So we'll talk about that one next. We have got a little bit of the explicit consent warning earlier on this week, and a little bit of Brian and who was it? George's storyline, which again fairly low hanging fruit for this one. Friendship. Because they're two little boat building buddies.
I like it.
It was fun. I think that having Brian in the storyline has certainly helped it a bit more this week. But I'm still not really sure whether it's going anywhere or just kind of floating along without a breeze in the middle of the ocean.
Brian's come a long way since he was being baffled about broad beans.
There was a slight bit of the Acid Ryan storyline today, and also a return of Max. Max Sentence was back in tonight's episode with new hairstyle.
He was cosplaying Sinead O'Connor.
He told me this when I was watching it, and I was like, actually, yeah, Sinead O'Connor is right.
I was expecting him to
now.
take out a picture of the Pope and start ripping it up and be dragged off stage.
Is he trying to be hard? Is this Paddy Beaver wanting to do this, or is it
method acting?
Do you reckon?
He's been in Strange Ways for the last 2 months.
It's probably nice and cool for him. He's clearly trying to not show himself as being a big wet blanket, and it's like he wants to be hard because there was all these bullies in the prison in the classroom with him today, weren't there? And Max was joining in on making fun of Daniel's creative writing tasks. So I think he's trying to blend in there. But I don't know whether he's doing a good job of that one. But
if I was stuck on a desert island, I'd chop all my hair off.
What'd you do with that?
I just put it in a little box. That's what I do with all my hair when I chop it off.
Send it off to charity.
I chopped it off the other day. You haven't even noticed.
Did you?
I've chopped off about... Yeah, how much is that?
It's about 30 centimetres.
Yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I need to inspect your hair later. She's got it.
I always have it in a hair claw.
Yeah.
And then I put it. I'll tie it under my chin.
Yeah.
In a little elastic band, and then I just cut the end of it off.
I thought. And then one time we've done this, I did it for you. And then I like sniffing your hair.
That's gross. And then I put it in a little pouch. I've got 3 of them now. It's really creepy.
It's like little pets. You stroke them at night.
No, I look at it and I go, I'm gonna make. Maybe they can clone me.
And our special gift for the next tier up on our Patreon is a lock of Gemma's hair.
If you I think you can select how much money you want to give us, can't you? You can decide.
I believe that is possible. Yeah.
I will part with one of my locks of hair if you donate. What should we say?
I don't know. You got.
If you said us £1,000.
Okay, so we'll highball it, shall we? Just to make sure that nobody actually does send us that.
I don't mind. I've got 3 of them.
Okay. Anyway.
I think what I'm thinking of doing with them, because they're not long enough. Unfortunately, they're not long enough to go to make a wig. Otherwise, I would send them off for that, obviously, which I've done before.
Oh, speaking of which, did you see Aggie's new hair today?
Fabulous, didn't it?
Yeah, that was interesting. Oh, also, other.
Hang on, I want to make
sorry,
a little.
You were in the middle
my
of
wig. What I want to do is make one of those whinges, which is a wig that's a fringe. Then I can make a fringe of my own hair, and I can clip it in and out. And eventually,
okay,
I'll have enough hair that I can just shave my hair and have a wig of my own hair on my head. Can't wait.
The other thing from this week's Coronation Street, anybody else noticed? Jill Halfpenny's gone from my Argos adverts. The little idents at the beginning where they're like, oh, who thinks they're the next Timmy Webster? Now it's just
Are you drunk?
No. Now it's just
Are you sure?
Yes.
Nobody said yeah, because why do you think I'm asking?
I don't know.
Because of what you were doing earlier.
What was I doing? Oh, yeah. No, I'm not going to say.
I'm going to say, otherwise it sounds dodgy. He was drinking out the cat fountain.
I just wanted to say.
In your defence, you did sanitise and wash the cat fountain, and then you said you were thirsty. It's one of these cat fountains that.
It spurts out water in a little fountain for the cat to
attract the cat.
Yeah, because they like to drink from running water. And I just cleaned it and I'm doing a good
and
wash
you were like,
in the
I'm
sink,
so
changed
thirsty.
the filter.
And I said, go and drink out the cat fountain then. And you went, all right.
Yeah, it was right there next to me.
Was it nice?
Well, it just tasted of water. I only had a little splash. I didn't
This is weird.
Drink my fill of it.
Please don't use this against us. Okay, right. Should we? Who's doing this?
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know what's been going on with our voiceover ladies. Has a contract run out or something? But now we have somebody who has got a lot more standard British accent.
No such thing. Whose go is it now?
I assume that you would like to run down what's been going on with Mr. Reed this week.
I would please petition Coronation Street to kill off Tim. This reminds me, so when Pat Phelan was on his rampage and we were wondering who was going to bring him down, it soon became sadly apparent to us that it was going to be Anna Windass, and we hated Anna. And the same thing's happening again now with my lovely Stephen. He's going to be persecuted by horrible Tim, and I can't stand the idea.
Well, I said this in the beginning of year predictions, didn't I? I think that the method of how it happened with Tim chasing Stephen down the road with Leo's body is it Elaine's body in the roof box or something, and then going to the tip and getting crushed to the crusher or something, I predicted at the beginning of the year. But it was still Tim, so although I'd be sad to see Tim take Stephen down, I would have to take some satisfaction
as soon as we
being
knew
right about who gets him.
That Elaine was going to be involved with Stephen, it seemed like the clock was ticking on her. And so, anyway, right. So
she's been clinging on to life, hasn't she? Yeah, go on. What's happened this week? Let's remind us.
On Monday, Sally and Tim are talking about Elaine and Stephen, and Sally's like, well, Elaine can decide who she wants to marry, and Elaine's still mad at Tim, and she's sending him rude messages.
Yeah, because he did that thing last week where he was saying, I can't believe you find my mum attractive.
Steve, I don't know whether it was insinuated that it was actually secretly Stephen that was sending these messages, but I think it's funny. Either way, honestly. Yeah. Stephen and Elaine are looking into going to LA to get married.
Not LA, LV.
Oh, yeah. Las Vegas. Shona says, oh, I love it when old people are in love. And she says, I'll keep your secret. And then she goes onto her phone and immediately texts the Plat Chat to say that they're getting married. And she forgot that Stephen Reed is also in the Plat Chat. So in order to facilitate their escape, they find a flight that is leaving that very day. Tim and Sally come to chat with them because they've seen this now, have they? And or they
no,
don't
they
know.
haven't seen
Elaine
this. They're still mad about the fallout from last week.
Elaine's like, you're not gonna accept. I'm not gonna accept your apology. You're only saying it because Sally told you to. And Tim says, sorry, Stephen, I just think there's something dodgy about you, which I think is ridiculous because this man, he's so stupid, he cannot get hints for like the most obvious things. Like if Sally went, oh, I'm a bit thirsty, Tim would say, why don't you drink out the cat fountain, for example, instead of making her a cup of tea, like what she was trying to get. But somehow he manages to see through Stephen's soul and work out that there's something not quite on the level with him, which don't buy that for a minute.
Well, you know, that accent is definitely fake because in tonight's episode we did hear his native Mancunian accent slip through.
You know, fry up.
Yeah, he was like speaking to Owen, wasn't he? How was your fry up? That was great.
I loved that so much. I just love him so much. So Shona has to stop them having a fight about the fact that Tim's insulting Stephen still, and Tim leaves, and Elaine tells Sally, well, we are going to go to Las Vegas to get married and we're going to go this afternoon. So Sally scurries off and tells Tim and says, please don't do anything stupid about this. Stephen goes into the factory, and this was a bank holiday on Monday, and he's going in to sort of prepare to leave on his holiday, but Michael's there and he's like, oh, you shouldn't be here because it's bank holiday, and he tells him that he's going to Vegas and says, while I'm gone, I want to put you in charge to butter him up.
Yeah. Poor Michael, he never got a chance, did he?
No, he didn't. He was saying, I'm going to come up with so many great ideas. I don't think he will. Sarah sees Stephen and congratulates him on his upcoming nuptials because she also is in the Plat Chat, even though now she's a Barlow. Stephen and Elaine go to see...
She's also in Barlow Bands.
Oh, Barlow Bands.
That's what I call it, yeah.
What other ones could there be?
No Time was supposed to be a short episode.
Winter Whingin'. Stephen and Elaine go to see
Grimshaw Grumbling.
Definitely. Now I'm thinking, what other ones are there?
Connor Conversation.
That's what they would have, wouldn't it? They would be so boring. That's all they come up with, and it'd just be Carla, Michelle, and Jenny like sending each other pictures of like pretty babies and puppies and stuff, and Michelle's like, I can't reply because I'm supposed to be sick.
I'm trying to think of other ones now. I don't know. I think I've exhausted myself.
Run out.
Yeah.
Metcalf.
Matterings.
Mumblins. So, Stephen and Elaine go to see Tim, who says, well, congratulations, no hard feelings. He shakes hands with Stephen to welcome him to the family and says, I'll give you a lift to the airport.
I'm just looking into the sky now, thinking of other ones, but I think we've done them all.
He says, I'll give you a lift to the airport so that you can go and get married. But when Elaine gets in the car alone, Tim says, I can't let you do this. And he speeds off with her locked in the back. And they drive around the corner to the precinct. And Elaine says, look, you can't stop me from marrying Stephen, even if you try. And she phones Stephen from her phone because they have this conversation. And she just points out that this stunt is not going to make any difference. It's just going to delay things. So he agrees to drive her back, but now they've missed the flight. So when Tim and Elaine get back, Tim and Stephen immediately start bickering, and Elaine's like, oh dear.
She has a little lady moment, a senior lady moment, doesn't she?
I'm having a Jane Austen
bit of a
woozy. And she needs her pills. So, what pills, we wonder? Elaine and Stephen are in Victoria Gardens later having a little heart-to-heart, and she says, oh, it's nothing bad, the pills. They're just high blood pressure pills. She moans about Tim a bit more, and she says, oh, it's so annoying that Tim just thinks that you want to marry me so that you can get your hands on my money is ridiculous. Maybe we shouldn't get married so quickly. Maybe we should think about it a bit more. And Stephen sees Adam and rushes off to talk to him, and we find out when he returns that he had asked him to draw up a prenup so that he can prove that he's not just after Elaine's money. And Elaine's like, no, you don't need to do that, there's no need. And he says, no, I insist, we'll get on with this wedding, I've sorted this out, I just need to go to the office. So Sally and Tim chat alone later, and now they know that they're having this prenup. Tim's kind of a bit annoyed because he's got no leg to stand on now to complain about this marriage. And Sally's in love with the idea that they're swish enough as a family. Now they're so posh that they need a prenup.
I like that's her new status symbol, prenup in the family.
I love this too, yeah. So, meanwhile at the factory, Stephen's going to Plan B.
Yes. Plan
B is take out a massive life insurance policy on poorly Elaine.
Yes.
But now, as far as I remember, I don't think this would actually work because from our experience of life insurance companies, they say, oh, is there anything that's might have possibly ever been wrong with you? And you say, well, one time this happened. They go, well, if you die of that, we won't cover you. So if she's going to die of high blood pressure, they'll be like, nope.
Well, I'm still always going for him pushing her off the Grand Canyon or something, but it looks like that's out of the question now. They're staying in Britain.
She's such a doormat. As she fell, she'd be like, Stephen, don't blame yourself. It was an accident. Yeah. You slipped.
So that was quite exciting. There was also at some point in that episode, I had these notes somewhere else at some point, and I've just crowbarred them in here. There was a great little conversation between Jenny and Debbie, who have got a lovely little feud going on there. And Gemma, they're talking about that now Gemma and Ches are going to have their wedding reception at Chariot Square Hotel. Of course they are. And Jenny was like, oh, it's really nice of you to ask, because I always thought you were a bit up yourself, Debbie.
And Debbie says, are you bringing the guest, or are you still single?
Yes, and this kind of maybe spurs Jenny on to look out for a new romantic partner. Now, we did know that Gemma was going to get married in Chariot Square, didn't we? Because when we went up to Coronation Street a few weeks ago on the tour, we couldn't get into the police station because they told us that they'd been filming Gemma wedding stuff in the Chariot Square hotel set, which is just up the stairs in the police station. So they must have been kind of like spilling out down the stairs and everything. So although if you go on the Coronation Street tour, mostly you can go inside the police station and have a good snoop around. We did not get the chance.
Hang on, I don't remember being able to do that.
Yeah. Well, you can go in.
You can't go in that much.
Well, you can't go into the cells or anything.
We've done it.
We've gone in a long way, but yeah, the tours now. They do. I promise they do. Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that.
On the street, on the Star tour that we did last year, we went in to see Sally
inside,
Carmen, didn't we?
We went in the foyer.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Snoop around.
Well, you can snoop around the foyer and read all the leaflets.
I don't think you can.
But anyway, I don't know, but
Jury's
we couldn't
out.
anyway because
Wednesday.
we knew that Gemma was getting married there.
Wednesday. Audrey's mad at Stephen because she found out about this engagement from the Platt chat. And, I feel really bad for her because Gal's like lost cause now. So she wants to see her darling
I
son.
don't think there's ever is too late for Gail to get married. I mean, I'm surprised that she's been single for this long, to be honest.
I know, me too.
This is like probably the longest period that Gail has ever not had a man on her arm.
Imagine how thirsty she is for love. Do you remember, we've spoken about this before a few times. You know that, is it called Return to Oz? That creepy Wizard of Oz sequel.
The creepy wheelie people.
Yeah, and there's a bit where the Queen, I think she's got a corridor full of heads.
Quite possibly.
And I just have this image of at Grasmere Drive, Audrey's got an entire room that she opens and it's just full of mannequins with all of the wedding outfits that she's ever worn to Gail's various weddings.
That is a weird imagination you got there. I like it.
Thank you.
And a big portrait of Alf gazing down on them.
Going, I'll never age, Audrey. Stephen tells Elaine that she needs to rest today because she was so pooped out from her blood pressure issues.
Ordeal.
And he says he's going to rebook the tickets, but he needs a passport. Now, Owen turns up. Owen is the investor on behalf of the Americans who was being schmoozed by the factory lot.
Yes, they're going to take America by storm with Nipper Snapper.
He kind of reminds me of Teddy quite a lot.
I know what you mean.
It really looks like Teddy's long lost brother. Maybe that's the twist.
Maybe this is Jenny's type.
It's just a normal looking bloke.
Yeah, he is. He's just a bog standard bloke.
He likes his beer and his football and his birds. So, Owen shows up on the street.
He's very unintimidating kind of guy,
That's
isn't
a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
He's very unintimidating.
Like me.
And when it's a lady, you say, she's got a nice sense of humour. So he's obviously there to see Jenny as Owen. But Stephen takes him into the factory because I don't think he's picked up on that. Tim and Elaine are chatting in the pub and they're very civil, but Elaine wants him to try to make things up with Stephen about the whole kerfuffle. And Audrey comes in and sees Elaine and goes to leave, but Elaine calls her over so they can have a chat. And they have a very nice heart-to-heart with Elaine telling Audrey...
This is a nice scene.
What a great mother she's been to Stephen. And Audrey's getting teary about this, about the fact that he was going to elope and she wouldn't be able to see him. And
they kind of share tales of having their child away, sort of estranged for large periods of their life, because, I mean, Stephen's not been a huge part of Audrey's life ever, really, has he?
No.
This is the longest he's ever been sort of around her. And then obviously Tim wasn't a part of Elaine's life for the best part of, 40, 50 years or so as well. So understandable that Audrey would like to see that, him taking somebody up the aisle.
I love the way that Audrey was getting very teary-eyed and she said, he really still is my baby boy.
Yeah,
I just love that
nice.
so much. It's very sweet. So Elaine goes and finds...
She's gonna be just devastated, isn't she? I hope that...
I cannot wait to see her reaction. I hope that we get to see all
I
the
hope
plats.
they don't make it silly.
Well,
I hope that they show
I don't
it,
care.
because sometimes with some of the older members of the cast, they shy away from having them there in some of the big reveal scenes. It's similar with some of the younger ones. They don't always have them in there.
I wouldn't have said I thought that about the older ones, but I know what you mean about the younger ones.
Well, Rita isn't about very much, is she?
Yeah, I know, but
and Audrey's
around more than Rita.
She is around more, but
she's not that much older.
I hope that they play it straight, because we've seen some fantastic performances from Maureen Lipman, because they're trusting her to deliver some really heartfelt, emotional scenes recently, like with Cerberus and everything. And I hope that when Stephen is revealed to be this mega serial killer, I want there to be some
I want
brilliant
the
Audrey
whole Platt
stuff.
family to react together in the same way that they reacted when they got to see what's his face's Bellini video.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Lewis Archer.
Lewis Archer. And I can kind of imagine a similar response. Like David doing a weasel face like, Uncle Stephen's a serial killer. I'm really, that's the only thing that makes me want him to sort of end his reign of terror. Because other than that, I'm quite happy for him to continually murder people until nobody's left.
I'd rather they played it straight, because I'm still kind of feeling that the Platts are not the really key Corrie dynasty as they were, say, 5 years ago, when they were the big family on the street, and they're just kind of there for the odd scene here and there, and the comedy scenes, and you got Shona doing her silly things in the cafe, and David's making his sarky remarks around the dinner table, Gail less said about the better. They just feel really kind of fragmented, and to have the Platts as a peripheral family in Coronation Street, it just doesn't sit right with me. They have been the heart of some of Corrie's best drama over the years, and I know we've had the Max stuff this year and everything, but even that, it just feels like they're off the boil, and they've got such brilliant actors in there. Every one of them, Tina O'Brien, Jack P. Shepherd, Helen Worth has been amazing. Not so much recently, but back in the day, Sue Nichols still fantastic, and to push them off to the side for so long, because all families and characters will have their time out of the spotlight, but it feels to me that the Platts are just yearning to be the centre of the big story. And yes, Stephen is part of that whole family, but the Stephen serial killer story doesn't really feel like a Platt story, does it? He's getting on with his own thing, and occasionally he'll have the odd scene with Gail or Audrey or something,
I agree with you.
Come on, justice for the Platts, bring them back. Yeah.
So Elaine goes to find Stephen in the factory and says, I've had a change of heart. I don't want to marry you away from the family. I want a proper wedding. I want a fancy venue. And he's like, a fancy venue? That could take a couple of years to organise. And she says, look, I don't care. I'm excited. We could get a double-decker bus. And she runs away. Like, why would you want... What are you talking about? A double-decker bus? She runs off, all excited. But then Stephen gets a text because he's been plotting and he needed a passport so that he could sign up for this life insurance policy, and it's coming through. So everybody gathers in the Rovers, and Elaine wants champagne because she's so excited. And Stephen's annoyed because Owen's at the bar, and he wonders whether Owen and Jenny are an item, and Jenny's like, oh, it's early days, to see where the wind takes us. And so Stephen has to slink back to Elaine and give regretful looks over his shoulder at sexy young Jenny.
He really is down the sloppy seconds of the lane, isn't he?
Well, last week, that was me going, Last week, Tim did accuse Stephen of possibly running off at some point with a 35-year-old to dump
he did.
Elaine, but I think he's got his sights set on somebody else. But she's definitely younger than Elaine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sexy Jenny.
I'm finding that part of the storyline really exciting. Well, not exciting, isn't it? Right?
No, I like
really
it.
Enjoyable to watch.
It's really interesting because it's like, what do you think you're doing, Stephen?
It's another one though that it feels like they're just kind of touching on and then shying away from it. This storyline has been a lot more about Stephen and his murderings and his plotting with Elaine and everything. And then occasionally he'll have a little chat with Jenny and show that he's still kind of interested, and she'll be a bit coquettish and flirty with him. And I've loved seeing her kind of really happy with Owen. It's nice to see her, you know, we love Jenny and it's good to see her in a good place, that she clearly is at the moment.
It's really nice that she's gotten over the fact that her stepdaughter was attacked by a stalker at her wedding day, and she still hasn't actually tied the knot with her long-term
and that Leo is missing and his
dad's missing.
So yeah, no, it's nice to see her going through some good things, but that element of the story, I'm just saying, come on, let's move forward. Let's get something. I want him to make the move on Jenny or something.
Well, he's got to tie the knot with Elaine first and get that sweet cash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. I want to talk about the prenup, but we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, okay.
So, Owen has a meeting with Stephen later, and he's Stephen's trying to ask him about what's going on between him and Jenny, and Owen says, "Oh, well, we've made some plans to meet up. It's going slowly, but I really like her." Blah, blah, blah. So on Friday, Stephen sees Jenny and Owen again laughing, and he's like, "Ah." And as he goes to work...
Actually, that was in today's episode, wasn't it?
What?
The Stephen and Owen scene.
Did I not just say... Well, anyway, on Friday...
I think I wrote that in the wrong place. Oh, well, it
on Friday, Stephen's going to work and the postman's there and he grabs his post and he's got this life insurance policy has come through. Hooray. So he goes into the pub and he jokes with Jenny about having Elaine surgically removed. That's so funny. And then he starts talking to Owen and tells her that... he talks to her about Owen and he's like, you know, he's got a bit of a history with women, don't you? Like, he's got so many women who've got a story to tell about old Owen. And Jenny's a bit disappointed and she kind of says thank you for tipping me off that he's not quite the gentleman I thought he was. Then Elaine comes in and she goes, "Oh, we're spending life together. Yeah, I love you. Stephen, get married."
So this is kind of what I'm talking about this the storyline kind of dropping off and just flirting on the edges of something big happening between Stephen and Jenny. I mean, I'm really seriously starting to think that Owen could be bumped off before Elaine now. I know Stephen is trying to avoid bloodshed by just putting Jenny off the scent and saying that he's a bit of a dodgy guy, but I don't know.
I don't think Stephen's in the mindset now yet of saying I will kill anyone who gets in my way.
I kind of think he is because he seemed fairly blasé about drowning Rufus a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but he didn't kill those naughty drug dealers that tried to bribe him. They just told them to go scoot.
He did, didn't he? But we thought that he could have done, and he did say, if you do this again, I will kill you.
If anyone else has got anything else to say, now's the flipping time.
Exactly, as Steve McDonald would say. I think he would. I think he's getting very, very cocky and thinking, yeah, I'm the king of the walk, and I can bump off whoever I want. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
If he sees Owen as just an obstacle in his path, and he just gives him a quick shove over a cliff or something, or a quick whack with a hole punch.
Give him the old archdeacon.
Oh, that reminds me. Morgan, our listener Morgan, went to a talk the other day at his university, didn't he? University of Liverpool, was it? Led by Ellen Taylor, Coronation Street writer and former Coronation Street guest. One time.
Conversation Street guest.
She's been on the podcast once. And yeah, she was talking about all things Coronation Street. And I do want to hear a lot more about this, but one of the things that she was talking about was about this hole punch and how that particular scene went through different iterations. And
I would say, I don't know whether it was, something that she wouldn't want to talk about on a podcast, but I would so love to have somebody, when the Stephen storyline's over, I'd love to talk to Todd Boyce about
I would
this.
very, very, very much love to have Todd Boyce on the podcast.
Love to talk to somebody about, a writer, about how this developed, because we got to speak about the Pat Phelan story with Dan McVery. You did, didn't you? You talked to her about various bits.
And we talked to Connor a lot about it as it was going.
Well, I know, yes, because the actor has a different perspective, though, from the writer.
Yeah.
So Todd Boyce wouldn't have been involved with, I'm going to use a hole punch.
No, but apparently it could have been that. It could have been, I can't remember, there was another piece of office equipment that apparently was suggested, but then it felt it wouldn't pack enough clout, and then there's a decanter was possible, but it's a bit boring.
Is it hefty enough?
Yeah, so it's all these things, and I think also it's like the hole punch was a bit of a comedy weapon.
It was,
and that's what they're going for,
and it's camp.
This story. Yeah, totally.
It really is. So, yeah.
So anyway, do you don't think that Owen's going to be, meeting the business end of a...
I think what's going on at the moment is Coronation Street is really enjoying flirting with us a little bit, and teasing us all as viewers, like, who's going to die?
Maybe it is a bit of that.
Who's going to be on his list next? It could be him, it could be her.
I don't think anybody thinks, okay, he's finished killing now.
Nobody thinks that for a second.
And there hasn't
Once you pop, you can't stop.
There hasn't been any spoilers that I've seen, at least, that, he's going to kill again. Maybe there has been, and I've managed to avoid it, which is good. But it just feels like this could keep on going, and... Is he going to become the most prolific serial killer on the street?
Please, fingers crossed, because I loved Pat Phelan.
Has got the highest body count at the moment.
Very low, it was a long burn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas I think Stephen's going to shine bright like a star, like a shooting star.
I have been thinking that he's bumping him off at quite a quick rate at the moment.
He's going a lot faster than most other.
Yeah, because we had Leo back in September, then we had Teddy, January, Rufus, April. He's going through them quite a bit, and.
Well, this is what they do. This is what the serial killers do, Michael. They have escalations.
Is that right?
It is true, yeah.
I don't know whether it's just that. Are they thinking, we haven't got anything out? Or what else can we do? I don't know. Let's have him bump off someone else, or is it they're just trying to rack up the body count quickly? I'm
going to say there's a little bit here of Coronation Street has acknowledged that this is a serial killer story. It's not the story of Stephen Reed, turning to the dark side, or a man who's kind of stuck in a difficult situation. You can say that, you can say that about John Stape. It's a comedy of errors almost, where he just continuously kept killing people despite his best intentions, and we've all been there.
That was quite quick, actually.
But Pat Phelan was a story of a man in the darkness, and a character study of somebody who was denying their inner darkness. Whereas Stephen Reed's story is incredibly simple. It's a Coronation Street serial killer and how he goes about his victims. And I don't mind that at all. I quite like the simplicity of the fact that he's just a Coronation Street serial killer, and who's he going to kill next? We don't need everything to be so fancy and dark and I don't think for 1 minute that they couldn't do it that way. We know we've seen them do it before, and I think Todd Boyce would be brilliant at it. But leaning into this really campy, this is a soap serial killer.
Yeah, but like I said,
just like the frenzied kind of excitement of the bloodshed and the it's just like if you boiled down all the soap serial killers in a pot, you'd end up with some delicious Stephen Reed font.
Do you think when he gets finally unveiled, he's going to be more on the kind of Pat Phelan, I am the darkness and the light, mwah-ha-ha-ha-ha, or is he going to be like, oh yeah, sorry about that, it's a bit embarrassing, or
is he going to be
it's just business?
I don't know, but I can't wait.
I like I've said before, I think he really does need to up the stakes. Who's going to care about who he kills?
His victims.
Who's going to care about Owen being bumped off? Another person potentially being brought in just to be a victim. Rufus was brought in just to be a victim. Even Elaine,
who
she came in as a victim, let's be honest. She's not big enough a character to really leave an impact. He's got to go after someone huge.
I know I've done this quote before on the show where I declared that Adam's Family Values was my favourite film of all time. But it still reminds me of that bit where at the camp, that horrible girl says, they're asking who's going to be the lifeguard, and the girl goes, I'll be the victim, and Wednesday says, all your life.
Yeah, that is Elaine right there. Were you surprised that they cancelled the Vegas wedding?
No, I was actually, because...
I was thinking when they were talking about We're Going Today, it was like, okay, yeah, I mean...
it makes sense to me.
They've had quite a few scenes, time for a little break for the actor.
Well, I believed it, because when Stephen said to Michael, okay, you need to look after factory, I'll be gone for 2 weeks, I was like, oh, Stephen's going.
He still might be. You know what this block storytelling's
I know what it's like, but I did completely buy that they were going to go off and come back married.
Do you think that they are actually going to get married?
Well, let's talk about the prenup then.
Go on then.
No, that's fine. Go on then, I dare you. We were talking about it, and it really doesn't solve the main concern that Tim should have in that. Don't kill my mum, but obviously he doesn't realise that that's something he should be worrying about. But it also doesn't solve, it only covers Elaine if they get divorced.
Yeah. That's what, as far as I understand, a prenup is there to say if we split up, then
we can take our stuff and leave.
Yeah.
So they aren't.
But if someone has an accidental fall off the Grand Canyon in inverted commas, money's all still going to Stephen. Well, surely.
If she hasn't updated her will, then I don't know where it would go.
Oh, she probably has. She probably sits there, practicing her new signature, saying Elaine Reid.
No, I bet she's like Mrs. Stephen Reid.
Yeah, probably.
So,
and yeah, of course she'd update her will.
The prenup only works if they split up, but I don't ever think that was never Stephen's intention to marry her and divorce her and take half her money. That was obviously never the plan.
Right.
Do you not think?
No, I guess not.
So he's like, whatever, have a prenup, I don't care. Prenups in this country...
It might have been at one point, but maybe now he realises that killing is a fairly easy solution to his problems.
Pretty quick.
And, Elaine would, she'd maybe drive any reasonable person to want to do a bit of stabby because she is fairly annoying. I'm
going to defend her. I think she's actually quite nice. I think she's nice.
She is nice, but... I can just imagine her, I'm imagining the Psycho scene where Elaine in the shower going, I think she'd suit the role of a 1960s macabre film. Well, yeah, film noir sort of screamy Doctor Who companion victim really, really well.
She's definitely got low tier, boring Doctor Who companion energy.
Yeah, she does, doesn't she? I mean, she'd make a better companion than who else?
Well, let's not name names.
The most recent ones.
No, I can just imagine that scene in Psycho.
Not as good as Mick Gibson.
Yes, I can imagine that scene in Psycho where, the shower screen is pulled aside and she's there going, oh, Stephen! And he's got a knife and she's like, oh, are you chopping tomatoes? And he stabs her and she's like, Stephen, you slipped and stabbed me, but it's okay. And then he stabs her again and she says, Stephen, I don't know if you realise, but you're killing me. And then he stabs her again and she says, Stephen, I'm so sorry, I seem to be in the way of your knife. And she just dies on the shower floor.
Oh, I really want that to be that.
I'm really sorry if this is inconvenient. I'll drag myself into the bin for you.
I'm sure...
Anyway, listen, I've been trying to say this 3 times.
Go on, then.
Can I just say, prenups in the UK, not very common, but I looked into it and they are actually legally binding if you do it correctly. You have to really make sure that you're doing it legally, but... Yeah, we don't really like those in this country. It's not a common thing to have.
Just not cricket, is it?
Well, I mean, for goodness sake. I mean, what happens if you marry a woman and she wants to take your castle? Anyway, but, if Stephen's smart, he just gets... I mean, it looks like he's going down I'm just going to get the life insurance policy, but he could also go down the route of, why don't you write me into a will?
Yeah, it could be.
Because if I was him, I'd say, we're going to buy this house together. If you die, you don't want me homeless.
No, yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense for her to not be in the will.
No, yes.
Him not to be in the will. So that he's still got two, backup plans here.
We say it might get a bit stabby or pushy, but there is the whole thing of she's on pills for, what was it for?
High blood pressure.
High blood pressure. I mean, she does seem very...
You've written Elaine on pills. You make it sound like she's on LSD or something.
No. I just wrote Elaine on pills. Like, oh, what do we think of that? She is very, very highly strung, isn't she? So that high blood pressure, I'm not too surprised about.
That's why I had to go to hospital.
I know it is.
Yeah.
I know it is. So, what does it? I don't know enough about it. Is there a way to bump someone off without looking like you did it? If they're on high blood pressure, or does he just?
I think you just
swap her pills out for something else.
I think you just need to watch what I'm doing if you want to see how you die of high blood pressure, because I think I'm on a pretty good track for it at the moment.
I think she's a bit too.
Drink butter.
Svelte.
Oh, thank you, darling.
I didn't say anything about you, darling.
I don't really know very much about high blood pressure and how you would. I guess the idea is just she'll go swoon. I need my pills, and he'll be like, I can't find them, and see if she sort of like falls on the floor and dies.
Yeah, maybe. That's not. It's no drowning in a fancy swimming pool, though, is it?
I mean, I'd rather just die of eating too much steak, but is that gout? I don't know.
I there's just a little bit of me that thinks that maybe Elaine is going to be his survivor in this, but I literally don't think that she's needed beyond this story. Fair play, because there was quite a period, wasn't there, a year and a half ago, when she disappeared off Corrie for a while after the Yasmin story finished.
She would come back.
Oh, so Elaine's left, she's gone. Months pass. Oh, so Elaine's just popped round, so she's still in the programme, is she? A couple of scenes, goes again for months.
I'm going to tell you, I reckon...
Just get rid of her, but now she's a main player again, so...
I'm gonna bet, and I can safely say this because nobody's going to call me on it, and I'm not going to put any money up.
This.
I'm not going to put any money up for this. No, I'm going to bet that they brought her back for Stephen, and I'm going to say I think she's going to die, because that's going to turn Tim's obsession with Stephen from comedic, in denial son-in-law who can't cope that his mum's banging a bloke that he isn't related to, into a sort of revengeful kind of warrior of justice. Yeah. Because at the moment he's just being an arse. But if his mum dies and he suspects that Stephen had something to do with it, that's a much more interesting story, isn't it?
I enjoyed the scene. I can't remember what happened in it now, but I know I enjoyed it at the time. With there was something where Sally and Stephen were left alone in the house there, and Sally was trying to just keep him entertained. Yes. What were they talking?
She kept saying, "Do you want a cup of tea?" It's because it's when Elaine was kidnapped.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And she was asking him if he wanted a toast.
I don't remember. It was funny, but clearly not very memorable.
I tell you what I reckon. What I reckon Sally's doing right now.
What?
Making Camilla's quiche.
Do you reckon?
For tomorrow.
So she is the sort, isn't she? As are you.
Mm-hmm,
you have some Camilla quiches.
I have made. I think it's unfair to
Camilla.
slander
You don't mind if I don't eat one, do you?
To slander Camilla with this quiche, because I don't think she had anything to do with it. It seems like it might not be very nice.
Yeah.
Why do you not want to eat it?
What's in it? Spinach and
broad beans, which in America is fava beans.
Well, I maybe don't want to eat it because it's got spinach and broad beans.
Can I just tell you that they're not? They're like edamame beans. They're not dried floury beans. They're fresh green beans.
I don't have it if it is a quiche Lorraine, but not a quiche Camilla, I'm afraid.
You're gonna try it.
Mm.
It's got cheese in it. It's got spinach, cheese, and broad beans and tarragon.
Broad beans really aren't very nice. Right, poorly Paul.
I can't believe you.
And his bad hand, everybody. What tragedy there was this week. Billy there, he's talking about some parishioner being on their last legs at the beginning of the episode.
Is the same person who's got MND that he's talking about?
Oh, maybe.
Today?
Yeah. Apparently, it's the new trend in Weatherfield, isn't it, to get motor neurone disease? Yeah, the same in the water, I think. So anyway, he's talking about one of our parishioners is going to die, and Paul's like, oh, so am I.
You might have to do some bloody work, Billy, eh? Yeah. Imagine that, having to do a funeral.
I've just noticed that my notes document here is corrected. Paul's got money problems to Paul's got Monet problems.
I can't sell the Monet because I nicked it.
He's like, I used to do a good side racket on counterfeit water lilies pictures, and now my dodgy hand is just
Michael.
It just looks like a Jackson Pollock now. Anyway, Billy says, look, don't. So Billy tells Summer about these money problems. Don't worry about him though, he's fine, and I'm kind of blind to everything tragic that's going on with him. So at work, Paul drops a plate, and Dee Dee comes in and says, Paul, I've just gone behind your back to arrange a really awkward, uncomfortable meeting with somebody that I think you would really want to meet. It's Trish, everybody, whose late husband also had MND.
He's dead.
He's dead now, yeah. He had a really tragic and expensive final few years. Come and talk to Trish about it. So they go back to the flat and Paul's clearly not into this. And Trish picks up on the hints as well. Paul's like, you can't just spring things like this on me. I'm not ready for this yet. And Dee Dee's like, no, you must confront your mortality, Paul. Go on, you got nothing to lose. And so Paul's like, oh yeah, okay then, fine. Trish tells him a little bit about what happened to her husband and how he was deteriorating, how expensive it was. And Paul's like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford this. I'm not ready to think about it yet. And Dee Dee says, well, what you need to do, Paul, and I may have said this already, and I'm probably going to say it again, you need to talk to people and tell your family about your diagnosis. And Paul, once again, and he may have said this before, and I'm sure he'll say it again, I want to wait for the wedding to get over with yet. Paul, until I do. Gemma and Chesney don't want to spoil their special day by making them sad. So
it's going to ruin everyone else's few months by bumming them out all the time.
Yeah. Trish has gone later, and Paul's just... It's not really helped. I'm not sure. I mean, what did you think about Dee Dee inviting this total stranger round to say, here's your future, Paul, it's a bit rubbish? I guess that she maybe had the best intentions.
I don't believe that she can be so stupid as to not realise how awful this was. I mean, she was trying to shock him into making the right decision insofar as to tell
confiding
people.
With his family, yeah.
But and I also feel really bad for this Trish woman who's been used.
Yeah.
Like, hey, why don't you come and share your miserable story to shock my friend into realising that this is actually serious and real.
Yeah.
I felt really bad.
I think her heart was probably in the right place with it, but didn't really think about it.
And the thing is about it is that you could have given her a bit of a pass here, but it didn't work. You could have given her a pass if it worked, but it didn't, did it?
No, not really.
I mean, all it really did was make him
even more
try
worried.
To blackmail somebody for £25,000 when he realised how much...
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume before Trish came round, he hadn't even really considered all the financial implications of having this condition.
Honestly, I hadn't either. I
would assume that you'd be given it from the NHS.
No. I'm very aware of this. You know, my best friend's brother had a condition where he died young and, you know, he had to be in a wheelchair and things. So I'm very aware of how much these things cost. But I also am aware of the fact that certain people it's easier to fundraise for certain people. I don't think many people are gagging and queuing up to donate money to white working class men to give them, you know, wheelchairs and stuff. Not like the same as children.
No.
Or you know what I'm saying? The best one in the world. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it. I'm saying that there are certainly people who are easier, who can find the funding slightly more quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, Trish points this out later and says that by the time you get the money, you don't need it anymore.
What did Trish do with her husband's wheelchair?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was thinking when she's saying, "Oh, by the time you get it, you don't need it anymore." I'm like, well, so surely somebody else does.
Yeah. Maybe Paul get it half price or something. Anyway,
yeah, I think it's honestly really sad. Because I think you shouldn't have to worry about this.
That's the last thing that you should have to worry about. Paul is very lucky that he's potentially got
I think he'll
stacks
be fine.
Of church cash.
That's what I keep thinking. But, you know, when he was talking about, I don't know how long I've got to work, I want to give money to Gemma, and so on, I was thinking, I can totally sympathise. I'd be thinking the same thing. But then when Trish turns up and says, sorry, you're going to need a wheelchair, you're going to need a stair lift, you're going to need this and that and the other thing, I was thinking, bloody hell. I guess you do. Never even thought about that.
I think we said on the podcast before, but I'm sure at some point that flat did have a stair lift in, because isn't that where Izzy used to live?
Well, they feel stupid
but
now.
But they're kicking themselves, aren't they?
Well, I wouldn't get rid of a stair lift if I had it. It'd be so handy for putting the shopping upstairs.
Okay.
You can make the cat sit in it and drive her up and down.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, Trish has gone later. Paul's just more worried. What's it going to do to Billy? How am I going to be able to afford it? And he's saying, I just want to say, I want to go wedding to get out of the way.
Quickly, one thing.
Said that already.
This feels to me a bit like how it felt to me when Sean was homeless, where it's like, you're making a big deal about this problem that is actually a real problem for lots of people, but you're in such a privileged position that all you have to do is ask and people will help you, and this won't be a problem anymore. There are many, many people that live around this country who have got this diagnosis, who don't have a boyfriend who's an archdeacon, who don't have a support system, who don't have a community of people that would help him. He's got so much support and he won't even see it, and it feels frustrating because it feels a bit self-inflicted, and I don't want to be thinking that in the back of my mind when I'm going through this. This story doesn't need to be complicated by this, I'm too proud to ask for help.
But that's definitely part of it, because this is what Dee Dee's saying.
Yeah, but
you're not making this for yourself, and I think that Dee Dee's role in this is to try and make him see sense. I think that Dee Dee has been brilliant. Okay. This story,
Dee Dee's been great.
Has been the making of Dee Dee. She's been in the show since last August, September or so, just kind of in the background a little bit, doing a little bit of lawyering. But this, when she and Paul had that flat together a few months ago, I was like, that's a bit weird. Why put those two together? They've got nothing to do with each other. But actually, the friendship that they've been able to develop has been brilliant. And she has been the voice of reason. And even when later on in this Wednesday's episode, she catches him stealing a car, and she's saying, "Look,
what?
You've implicated yourself now. I'm gonna have to phone the police on you." And she's thinking about all the very sensible, practical things. Still being a good friend. I'm really loving Dee Dee.
Been great in this storyline.
Yeah. She's got the legal know-how, using it sensibly. She's not doing anything like, I'm going to do something dodgy and illegal here, going against my legal principles. But it's all been balanced just right. I think it's fab. So anyway, Paul goes back home, finds Summer looking for jobs online. She's like, yeah, I want to contribute to the house now I'm 18. And Paul's like, hang on a minute, has Billy been telling you about my Monet problems? So on the sofa later, Paul admits to Billy, this is all getting a little bit too much for me. With all my cash flow problems and everything, because Billy's still none the wiser about the severity of his condition, and they just end up having a bit of a soppy hug together. So Wednesday, Paul starts the day worrying on his laptop. He's looking at wheelchairs. He's looking at other MND kind of accessories and cars and things.
Can't remember how much the wheelchair was. I've got two figures in my mind. One of them's £25,000 and one of them's £40,000.
I think maybe 25 it was. An awful lot. Awful
much.
Lot.
I mean, obviously you don't need that necessarily. Like, you could have a cheaper... Like, you could have one that just gets wheeled about, but then you lose your independence.
Yeah. I'm hoping as well with this, and I don't know what, as his condition deteriorates, will he lose his speech first or his movement or anything? I'd really quite like to see a scene between him and Izzy, because I think that could be really affecting. When we've just been talking this week, because we did a character profile of Maud Grimes and the story with Maud and Jim when he was in a wheelchair for a bit, and she kind of gave him a bit of a pep talk and a buck your ideas up, worst things happen at sea kind of talk. And I think that Izzy, brill to have her back on the programme after Shirley was seemingly really badly hit during the pandemic, but she's still just kind of there, being a bit silly in the factory, isn't she? And to give her she can do it as a really kind of, because it'd be Shirley talking from her personal experience about actually having to live in a wheelchair and what it's like, and I think that she could deliver a brilliant little moment there with Paul.
I think it's really important for everybody also to realise, and Paul's story is gonna help this, that you can become disabled. I don't think people realise that I can't remember the statistic, but the vast majority of people who have a disability were not born with the disability that they have. So just because you're okay now doesn't mean, like, you can't think of disabled people as another group of people that doesn't have anything to do with you, doesn't involve you. Anybody could be disabled. You could, be in a car crash, you could get an illness, you could have a degenerative condition like Paul. So showing Paul going from being an able-bodied person to being disabled, I think is really a really important storyline. But equally, somebody like Izzy can sort of still talk to him about her experiences.
I would like to see that. Anyway, so he's looking at wheelchairs and stuff online, and he closes it down. He does the classic Corrie thing of, I'm not gonna close the window down. I'm just gonna close the laptop up because surely nobody's going to open it and see what I was looking at. Because apparently people on Coronation Street don't have locks on things. He's not got a passcode on his laptop. Daniel seemingly doesn't have a lock on his phone.
No.
What were you saying?
It doesn't matter.
There you go. Anyway, Paul's feeling really guilty that Summer's going out for a job interview, and he feels like, I pushed you into this.
He shouldn't bloody do. Why has she not got a job, lazy cow?
Well, she's still a student.
I had a job at university. Why can't she? She thinks she is Lady Muck.
Anyway, he says, like, I'm proud of you and stuff. So Dee Dee's trying to get Paul once again to tell his the story of his condition at his hearing, because she thinks that this is gonna, for stealing the car last week, she thinks that this is gonna make the judge and the jury, or whoever it is, I don't know, more lenient on him. But he's like, no, if I say that in court, it's gonna get out, it's gonna be in the papers, Gemma's gonna find out. No way, I'm not gonna tell people about this. And this is where you're right, he is really making a bit of a rod for his own back here, and it also ties into what I was moaning about a month or so ago about him being a bit of a martyr and a do-gooder and everything. I'm like, come on, Paul, you gotta think of yourself for a moment. Nobody's this kind of perfectly...
He's not.
What?
You're mean.
He's thinking of Gemma. He needs
Michael,
to be a
can I
little
tell
bit
you
selfish.
that sometimes when something bad happens, you do think of the people that you love, and perhaps it's a self-preservation technique to stop him from thinking, oh, this is actually happening to me.
Quite possibly, but
He's
I
not
do
Mother
want
Teresa.
to just say, go on, Paul, go on, just tell
It's
him.
horrible. You're a horrible person.
I think
Just don't like him.
Anyway, she says, look, he talks about the cost of the wheelchair and everything, and he's like, yeah. And she says, well, you know what? However much money you're going to throw at this, it's not going to fix your condition. Money's not the answer. You need to tell your family and your friends. He then tries to phone Niall, I think it is, but he has the phone put down on him. But Niall phones him back later, and he wants to meet up with him because he's got another car for him to steal. And Paul's like, yeah, absolutely, I won't let you down.
I love stealing cars.
I think that's easy. Billy catches Paul on his way out and says, look, do you want to go to town this afternoon? And Paul has to lie and say, oh no, I'm going to the pictures with Dee Dee. And Billy has a bit of a disappointed look when he goes out, but he, like us, is very pleased with the friendship that Paul and Dee Dee are developing. So sadly for Paul, he gets rumbled a little bit when Billy sees Dee Dee in the street, just one of these coincidental bumping into each other's, and Billy says, oh, so you're off to the pictures or something later, and Dee Dee has to think quite quick on her feet and realise that, hang on a minute, Paul's up to something if he's told Buddy we're going to see a film today. So she plays along with it quite well. I mean, luckily, as a lawyer, she needs to be quite good at that sort of thing, I guess. And she goes to see Paul and says, look, I'm sorry that I was a bit harsh on you earlier. And he says, that's fine. But anyway, I need to go, because he's got a little tracking app on his phone and he sees where Niall is. He's at the Freshco car park, and so he kind of makes his excuses and leave. Cut to the Freshco car park, and Paul gets into this swish car, switches on the engine, but who's there to stop him? It's only Dee Dee. She's been tracking him down herself, and she's like, what the heck are you doing? Stealing another car again? No way. I can't represent you if you go ahead with this. Think about that. I'm not going to implicate myself in this. And Paul's like, oh, but I'm so badly in debt. I've got no choice. And he's like, please just, look away. Pretend you've not seen this. I need to do this because I am so massively in debt. And she's like, no way. In fact, I'm going to call the police if you drive off because I'll be an accessory otherwise. And he speeds off. And I thought that was quite an exciting little cliffhanger. That was like a midway through the episode cliffhanger, wasn't it? Him stealing the car. So I was somewhat disappointed when straight after the break he just drives back, face full of tears, and like, no, I can't do it.
He's like, I've just remembered, Dee Dee, this is really embarrassing, but I did come to Fresco for their amazing offer on pins.
No, I thought I think that for me this week that was possibly the most exciting part of the week. Like, oh he's done it again, and now Dee Dee can't represent him. I mean, technically,
still
she
counts.
has seen him kind of do
a bit of a crime.
You can't just take
something and then put it back and go, it didn't count.
He wasted a couple of p's worth of petrol on that, didn't he? On his little jaunt around the car park.
On the dashboard.
Yeah, leave it under the windscreen.
Well, I think the idea of this was it was supposed to be an insurance scam, so I think the owner of the car knew this was going to happen.
Oh, yeah, of course, that's right. You're absolutely right.
So they, don't mind, do what you like.
Mm-hmm. So, they're back at the flat later, and he says, oh, I'm sorry for being such a drama queen, but seriously, the wheelchair, the stair lift, all of this, it's just so expensive. I don't know how on earth I'm going to afford this.
This is terrifying.
Then he starts talking about, part of that, what about my bucket list? What if there's things that I want to do before my condition gets worse? How am I going to afford that? Should I just give up on that? Should I? And she's like, look, Paul, there's grants and everything for you. You're not going to basically trying to help him see he's not going to want for anything. People will be around him. He'll have his friends, his family again. You will get what you need, and we will look after you.
Take out a load of credit cards.
Yeah.
And then don't pay them back when you die.
Just don't tell them about the condition when you're filling in the form. Then they get back to the subject of car stealing again.
Do you think when you apply for a credit card, they're like, hang on a minute. Question number 1, are you a Coronation Street character? Question number 2, do you know Stephen Reed and does he like you?
Yeah.
Number 3, have you been diagnosed with a terminal illness?
Well, that's pretty much.
And if you answer yes, then they don't give you a credit card.
Yeah, that could be a good
I think
chunk of the population.
They probably should start asking you that.
Anyway, so she's like, you need to dob people in. You need to make sure people know that this isn't you acting on a whim stealing this car. Who put you in touch with Niall? And he lies and says it's someone from the Dog and Gun, somebody dangerous that I can't really risk dobbing in because they will come and beat me to a pulp possibly. And she's like, I can't. You've got yourself in some kind of organised crime syndicate.
You can tell she's
got
a new
yourself
character.
Caught up with a Weatherfield mafia.
If she'd been in the show for more than 5 years, she'd be like, makes sense to me. But because she's new, she's like, what the hell? You've made this bad situation worse. This doesn't make any sense.
She says, you need to make a plea deal. You need to stand up for yourself. You need to drop these people in it. Because after all, Niall would drop you in it if he had the chance, remember?
True.
So Paul goes out, bumps into Damon, of course, and he's like, oh, no, he doesn't. No, he goes to the Bistro, doesn't he? And this is where Paul does his hard man act, and it's like, bless him. He has done it before. Do you remember when evil, rapey Josh was in prison, and he was what was the story? He'd said that David had beaten him up or something, and Paul was the one that went in there and was like, I know the prison guards from when I was in this prison, and I'm gonna set them on you, and it worked, and Josh changed his story. So we have seen that Paul is apparently capable of threatening people quite intimidatingly, but he's just such a bit of a teddy bear, isn't it? It doesn't quite work from me.
Seen a man in a unicorn onesie that you suddenly aren't as intimidated by his threatening.
That's exactly it. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna dob you into the police for being a dodgy geezer unless you give me 25 large. Oi! And Damon's like, you're embarrassing yourself, mate. And Paul says, well, I have got nothing to lose. I'm dangerous. I've got
Dangerous.
I got a couple of years to live. I can do whatever I like. And Damon tells him to do one because he's also wellard. And Paul says, "You got till tomorrow."
Wow.
Neither of these two. Damon's
I'm sorry,
a little bit.
they're not. They don't
tougher.
convince me as hard men at all. I really don't know what it is, but both of them, I just feel like.
I think Damon does a bit.
Boys, stop bickering. We're gonna have chocolate digestives and watch some Downton Abbey. You love that, don't you? Come on, lads.
Try 'em chocolate side down. It's a revelation. So Paul gets home later. Summer's got the job. Actually, was it some service thing? She's going to be working at events or something.
Granny.
Yes.
I've got the job.
Thank you. That's what she rang up Granny Spellman to say, isn't it?
Yeah. And she's like, Granny Spell's like, who is this?
I hope it's not some kind of gay job. Granny Spellman, she might be dead for as far as I'm concerned.
Granny Spellman might be dead.
Anyway.
That would be handy. This could solve the whole problem. Imagine if Granny Spellman dies and leaves Summer a conveniently large amount of money. She lived in that really nice house and she had a conservatory. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure she had a cabinet of china. So she must be rich.
But didn't Summer get a load of money herself when she turned 18 last year? That Drew had left.
She's such a devious cow, isn't she? Keeping all that money. What does she want? What does she need it for? To buy more dungarees?
we said what sort of job could Summer have got, and my best suggestion was like a floor tester, and she just falls all over it, and it's to test the sturdiness of a floor. How much bounce has it got?
No, she works in a mattress shop.
Oh yeah, maybe.
So, check this out.
The dump. Yeah.
And they're like, wow, look at this. This shop assistant was trying to sell us a mattress and he just fell asleep right in the middle of the. That must be so comfortable. We should get this one. It's a temper mattress.
Then they could have a story where it's her and Amy as like rival shop assistants at the mattress store, and they're just there swooning all over each one. It's like, oh yeah, well look at this.
Oh yeah, well I had a load of milk.
More elaborate than the last.
Oh dear, actually no, that doesn't do that. I need the toilet now.
Anyway, so everyone's basically happy for Summer at the end of the episode. Even Paul, he gives a lovely grin. But there is another confrontation between him and Damon towards the end of the episode, and Damon's like, I'm still not intimidated by you, and he proves that by phoning up. I'm gonna say Niall, but I can't remember what Niall looks like or how much he's involved with it. But he says, right, this Paul, he needs shutting down. Oi.
Hey, is that the EastEnders lot? Can you come up here and do roughing up for me, please?
Can you send that Danny Dyer up?
Hey, it's me, Danny Dyer. I went in this ocean and never come back out again, innit? I could be anywhere, right? I'd probably washed up in Weatherfield with amnesia. Wouldn't that be a bloody great twist?
No.
That would be so good. I'd love that.
Danny Dyer washing up on Weatherfield Canal.
Hey, who the hell do you think you are? Oh, it's me, Danny Dyer, but I've got a northern accent. I love Eccles cakes.
Anyway, that's not going to happen. Friday's episode today, Dee Dee finds Paul in the cafe. He's been ignoring her messages, and she says, look, I know you didn't like speaking to Trish the other day, but I'm going to talk to her again because I'm really going to push her onto you. We're going to talk about grants again. He's like, what is the point? Nothing's going to help me.
I'm trying to buy my sister a wedding dress.
Yes.
Is Trish a dress designer? No.
He wants a little bit of normality in his life, and he accompanies Gemma and Bernie to the wedding dress shop today. They're almost rumbled, aren't they? Because Billy comes into the cafe later, where Dee Dee is having her meeting. She was
very loud conversation.
Loud conversation about MND, and Dee Dee's like, oh. It's my fault, really. I shouldn't have organised a meeting here in the cafe. Yes,
well,
Dee Dee.
Billy's standing there, literally wringing his hands and like putting his hand up, like, oh, I know someone who's got MND. Oh, please, can you help me because he's gonna die soon.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find a support group.
They managed to get
him.
rid of him, don't they? I am really, really, really mega fed up of the cafe set. I think they just need to give it a break.
Wow.
It's become the new Weatherfield Hospital. I mean, the problem with Weatherfield Hospital is that there's only so many storylines you can do there. It means somebody else has got some horrible diagnosis.
I don't mind at all. It means you get to see Shona.
I mean, yes, that's true. Sometimes Nina, sometimes Roy. I just feel like they show the cafe far, far, far too much, and people are always having their breakfast in there.
Okay, well,
there's so many different sets.
Yeah, all right. Made me laugh when Dee Dee was trying to hastily explain why on earth she decided to have a meeting with this woman in public, and she was like, "Oh, well,
Adam's got meetings."
It's like, you don't need to explain. The writers just wanted you to be somewhere that Billy would come and overhear you.
Yeah, we know Dee Dee.
But anyway, yeah, Billy's like super interested in this conversation because he knows somebody who's a parishioner who's got MND, and he wants to set them up with a support group. Little does he know.
Yes, there is a little bit of MND close to
Do you
home.
not think that this is going to make it even harder for Billy to hear this news, because he knows better than Paul probably did when he was told he had MND what that actually means. Billy would have watched this man, if it's the same person he was talking about on Monday.
Yeah,
he would have watched this man deteriorate to be on death's door now.
And now he knows that that's what he's going to see Paul doing.
I can't imagine.
It's a little bit like,
I don't want to see this.
It's a little bit like how Dan Brocklebank, was it his granddad, I think, had MND, and now he's got to be in a storyline, which, you know, he seems very much up for it. But yeah, it's going to be bringing back some memories, and you're right that he's horrible. He's going to be thinking,
I know that
this is going to be Paul soon.
When you hear a story like this about an actor and how much a storyline is personally affecting, like, you know, how much their personal life is being reflected in this story, when you see them, you know, react emotionally, it makes it so much more difficult to watch.
Yeah. Paul goes into the bistro later, has another bit of a go at threatening Damon again. Still not really intimidated by that.
I'm going to do a thumb war with you.
Paul walks off, and then Damon speaks on the phone.
I think Damon would win.
I think
depending on which hand it was.
He speaks on the phone to Niall, saying that Paul's not going to give you any trouble or anything. Just make it count.
Well, he's arranging a beating.
Yes.
For Paul.
Yes. Not a beating and thumb war.
I shouldn't have said that. I didn't think about it.
It's used in his other hand. It's fine. They're in the wedding dress shop later.
Hooray!
I kind of thought there was a lot. Was this a real wedding dress shop? It felt a bit setty in terms of the lighting, didn't it? You can usually tell if it's in a real shop, like in Classic Corrie at the moment. We're seeing Lucy's Florists, and just the way that it's all lit, it is clearly an actual place. But they had an awful lot of wedding dresses there. Did Corrie just hire a load of wedding dresses, or are these all wedding dresses that they've got from previous Corrie weddings? I don't know.
They only hired the left-hand side of a bunch of wedding dresses.
Yeah. Anyway, so they're there, and Gemma comes out of the changing rooms with this absolutely hideous dress.
I did pause it and have a closer look to see how much these dresses cost, because earlier on, Dee Dee said that her friend paid eight grand for a wedding dress. Now, if that was American dollars, it would have been not as much. But the one that I saw was £799, so they're very pricey. But she ends up with a dress that looks a bit like Queen Victoria's dresses, in that it's got these kind of flancy bits on the shoulders.
It had very weird shoulders,
and then it had this big floofy bit coming out with like a bow around the wide part of the skirt.
She wanted something big. She wanted, one of these big fat Greek wedding statement kind of wedding dresses.
And the statement was, I have no fashion
I have no taste. But Gemma, of course, loves it, and this is the dress that she wants, but oh no, it's far too expensive. So then Bernie does this little scam where she pretends that she needs the loo, so the assistant will take her out, and then Paul can start snapping away photos of Gemma, which they'd been previously told you're not allowed to do, because we don't want other people seeing our designs and running them up themselves, which is exactly what Gemma wants the factory lot to do. So she's there posing for photos. Paul very, very close to her. I would have thought, you need to stand back a bit to get the full view, but...
He's also got his phone on timer mode.
What did he?
Yes.
Oh, that's a rookie mistake there. Anyway, so
good job.
They're caught out,
good job,
thrown out.
Niall's great big criminal mastermind plan wasn't for Paul to steal the design of a wedding dress.
Well, he did it in the end, didn't he? He was very sneaky. The woman's like,
they catch them.
Yeah, they catch them. The woman says, right, I want to see you delete these photos. Paul shows her himself deleting them. But later in the episode, we find out that they're still in his recently deleted folder. And that's what I said, wasn't it? When he was watching, I was like, don't worry, they're in his recently deleted. They won't remember that, though. And they did. So well done, Coronation Street. So they head back. I've lost where we are now.
Well, he gets a phone call from Damon, and he runs off to take the call. And,
that's right.
He meets up with Damon in the precinct and says, "Give me the money.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to lose. I'm going to die any minute."
I just realised that I've written their court, but spelled it Court. That's flipping terrible.
I think you're drunk.
Stop it. I don't.
Do you think somebody gave you some kind of drugs?
A boring teetotaler.
I know you are. That's why I'm surprised.
Um.
So anyway, at the precinct,
Is that what sort of drunk I am? I wouldn't be a tired drunk. I wouldn't be a boring
Just
drunk. I wouldn't be a Larry drunk.
sleeping.
I just can't spell accurately.
Yeah. So they go to the precinct.
Yes, they go to the precinct and
Well, just Damon.
Damon has a bit of a change of heart because Paul's still saying, "Give me the money." Damon says, "No, I ain't got the money." Paul's like, "No, go on, rrr, I'm gonna dob you into the police station." And Damon just pushes him into the dodgy alley there, roughs him up a little bit, and Paul's like, "No, don't hurt me."
Well, hang on. Paul really lays it on the line here, doesn't he? He tugs at Damon's heartstrings.
He does a bit.
Says,
He's like,
"You're the only person who even knows."
Yeah.
You know, screw you, Dee Dee. I can only really tell you how I'm feeling here. I've got 2 years to live.
Yeah, he uses it as a bit of a events, doesn't he?
And so Damon lets him go. He says...
He's got a little art in there, hasn't
Well,
he?
because Damon said to him, they're going to beat you to a pulp. And Paul was doing the whole switch from the Matrix. Not like this. Not like
if
this.
Paul gets beaten up the way he is now, then there's a possibility that he's not going to... Could make it worse, or he won't recover. If he's really put out of action, by the time he would normally have healed, he's actually deteriorated. So this could be the end now for him.
Probably a good idea to stop the whole criminal stuff then, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. He's making the rod for his own back a little bit by being a little bit dodgy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Paul heads back off, and then the heavies arrive.
Hang on, Damon lets him go. He says, "You run off."
I said that. Damon lets him go, and then the heavies arrive, and they're not particularly happy that Paul is out there on the loose, and he's been let off the hook. So because he could still dob them in about being the criminal Weatherfield mafia. So so they're saying, like, Paul, where does he live, Damon? You got to tell us his address. And later on, we see that Damon has got a black eye, so he's taken a beating himself for Paul. Good for him. Nice guy.
Wow, I really hope that decent man, Damon, gets a good woman.
Do you know what they call it when they punch him in the face? Hitting the hay. Thank you. So anyway, Paul sees him with this black eye and he's very grateful and everything. Bernie,
and Damon says, "Don't blackmail anybody anymore.
Don't do any more blackmailing."
That was good for a week's worth of storylines, but stop now.
Bernie and Gemma are there in the Rovers later looking at wedding dress pictures. They're trying to find something else, but there's just nothing quite tacky and hideous enough to really spark Gemma's interest.
I feel Gemma doesn't appreciate how lucky she is that she found the wedding dress she wanted to wear on her first outing.
Yeah, that's very true.
Normally happen.
No. Anyway, luckily for her, Paul comes in and shows her, "Look at this, my recently deleted folder. I have got those photos still." So huzzah! Now the factory girls can run up a knockoff dress for Gemma, which I actually quite like. The fact that she's got a knockoff dress, that's I hadn't even considered anything like that, but that's very fitting for the character.
Can I just point out that we've had years, decades of Underworld struggling, or whatever factory, fabric factory, clothing factory has been on that site. Decades struggling, hand to mouth, rush this order out, do this, do that. We need Michael's genius to come up with a great idea for nipper snappers for this new product line because knickers aren't cutting it. Yet, for decades, we've had the factory girls making wedding dresses in their spare time.
They have, haven't they? That was a Hayley Cropper thing. Why don't they just
make bloody wedding dresses and charge £800 for them and not be destitute and always...
Yeah, you need to tell Stephen that idea.
Mouth.
That's a better idea than
Is it literally not just the most brilliant idea ever? Just make the wedding dresses that you've been making this whole time.
Right, at the end of the episode, Paul goes to see Dee Dee again, and because she saw him speaking to Damon earlier on in the episode, and he tells her everything, and he can't believe that Damon took a beating for me. Maybe he's a nice guy after all. And Dee Dee's like,
Dee Dee,
you bloody idiot. You've been still involved with Damon. What are you doing?
Give him a tap
If you're
round
not
the
going to
head.
go and grass him and Niall up, the best thing that you can do, to be honest, is plead guilty and hope you get a suspended sentence, because you are just digging yourself a massive hole already, you bloody plonker. And Paul's like, oh no, Dee Dee, you've got to help me.
But Paul was winding me up because he keeps going, Dee Dee, help me. And Dee Dee goes, okay, here's an idea for how to get out of it. And he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. I can't. And then she says, all right, I've thought about it a bit more. And here's another idea. And he goes, no.
But think about Gemma and Chesney.
Help me a different way.
Somebody
No,
think of the
I've
quads.
given you 2 ideas. First of all, tell everybody about your diagnosis and they might go easy on you. No, not doing it. Secondly, tell everybody who it was that put you up to the thieving and maybe they'll go easy on you. No, I'm not doing it. Sorry, Paul, you're on your own now. If I was Dee Dee, I'd just kick him down the stairs.
I don't know. I can't remember when this wedding is happening. Literally, it could be next week.
I cannot wait for this
all I
wedding
know.
to be over. And I'm sorry, but I've never had a wedding that I've been more not looking forward to than this.
So you're not looking forward to it? Or
No.
I'm kind of semi-interested
I've
to
never
see
been
just
so-
how tacky it can be, because one of the best, most memorable weddings on Coronation Street, let's not forget, was Scylla and Les's awful 2006, was it? Halloween wedding where they get status quo there and it's just the tackiest thing ever, and they have to get a fake vicar to marry them, and that was a total chav wedding to the extreme, wasn't it? And I don't think they're going to go quite that far with Gemma, but I think
think it's going to be miserable because we know that Paul's got this horrible secret. I'm expecting it to come out at the wedding.
You reckon?
I also am not into watching 4 annoying children running around throwing petals or whatever it is that they're going to be involved in doing.
I don't want to see Gemma just taking a massive bite out of the wedding cake.
No,
She's going to probably try and fit the whole of the top tier in her mouth, isn't she, at once?
I just not interested. I don't care, and I'm not looking forward to it.
I'm
because
kind of looking
if you're
forward
talking about
to it.
tacky weddings, nobody can beat Alice Tinker's wedding in The Vicar of Dibley.
And yeah, that was good.
That's the benchmark upon which all tacky weddings will be judged, and it won't come anywhere close.
It's interesting how little we've seen of Chesney in all of this.
That's because he's just the groom, and they don't really count. When
Even
it comes
Gemma,
weddings.
to be honest, hasn't been a huge player in it, but Chesney has been really sidelined throughout the whole of this. It's in the similar. It was a bit like how in the Carla storyline today, she was talking about me and Peter going off somewhere, and Peter managed to get through the whole episode without featuring at all. Show don't tell, Corey.
If only we could do that in our real lives.
We've seemingly been chatting about this one as
I think
we
we've
go.
done enough.
Do you think that Damon has changed? Are they trying to rehabilitate this character? Because I am got no interest in him staying as a long-term character.
I'm
I'd
really
rather
confused
he's
here.
still nasty.
Is he going to be like a Gary character where he's got up to some really bad things, but we're supposed to forgive him because he's a cheeky chappy and he's got nice hair?
He's still doing a lot that is trying to make out that he is a villain, though. He's sitting in his swivelly chair in a darkened bistro, and
You've got to try harder than that to be a villain on Coronation Street.
He did say today, look, I just
guy.
want to make the bistro do well, but
He's Gary
still got his
2.0. He's a villain for the right reasons now. I'm just really confused because
I think he
I
just feels
thought
to
he
me
was
like he's the sort of person that can't quite stay away from the dodginess.
no, I know, but he felt to me like a filler character who was going to be in it for a few months and go, or like for a year or something. But bloody Sarah and a Nicolastic failure around her.
Well,
you know she's going to end up in bed with him again. She can't leave him alone.
I know. So let's move on to that. Let's nicely segue
Damon in the
into the
sack.
Damon and Sarah story. And
On Monday, Adam's got to work
Wedding
on a bank
application.
holiday. I can't believe it. And Sarah's not happy about it because he wants to go to the bistro for his lunch. And she's like, oh, that's dull. So Adam, Maria and Damon meet in the cafe because they've got this opening hours late licence meeting to do. And Todd comes in and he thinks it's a great idea because he's talking about, oh yeah, but you want to have a drink. Like, do you really want a bar at the end of your road?
no,
I'm
I
not
don't.
sure. Damon winks at Sarah from across the street, and then she's like a moth to the flame. She's like, comes over, she's like, oh, just checking, just want to check, but have you got something in your eye, or are you just winking? And he's like, actually, I really fancy you. And she's like, oh, you fancy me, do you? Well, I don't fancy you, you're just too sexy. I mean, horrible, I don't like you at all. You're a skanky cow. And he's like, oh, but I love you and I want to squeeze your boobs again. And she says, oh, no, you can't do that, I'm married.
She is, honestly, what
She's just staring at him like she might
flat.
as well have her hair like twisting around her finger in a ringlet going, oh, Damon, so, do you remember when we shagged each other? Oh, imagine if we did that again, what would you do to me? Oh, don't say that, that's disgusting. I'm a married woman, I've got to go. But anyway, write it down and text it to me. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean.
She's just such an outrageous flirt, which, to be fair, you know, Adam's been a crap husband for the whole entire time they've been married, so I don't blame her particularly.
He's not been that bad.
He works on a bank holiday.
He was wrongly accused of stalking, having an affair with Lydia last year, wasn't he? And he's been working very hard on his own for the period. I'm not going to deny that. But he's trying to provide for the family.
Boundary disputes.
Yeah, and all
boring.
that. He's having to do some very, very hard and boring work to provide for Sarah Louise and Harry.
Well, Sarah's got her own business to deal with, thanks very much. So anyway, Damon and Sarah we're not going to go near each other again. Agreed? Yeah, agreed, because every time I see you, I want to pull your pants down and make love to you. Well, we can't have that, can we? No. See you later, baby. Bye, sexy. Oh, sorry. I mean, you horrible man. And then she walks off. So Jenny hears about this potential late licensing, and she's not happy about it because obviously, you know, maybe people will go there and stay there all night instead of going to the pub. Shona thinks it's a good idea, but then she thinks more about it and realises there might be late, loud music and drunk people being sick in the front garden that aren't David. so they decide to object to this. So Sarah heads home and Adam tells her that Damon, Nick and Leanne are making a good team, and she sort of gets her nose put out of joint. So on Wednesday, Sarah presents Adam with a fancy piece of jewellery. I thought she got him a watch.
I couldn't tell what it was. I saw it was kind of chainy and I didn't want to write that.
Why would you buy a fancy piece of jewellery?
Well, no, it might have been a bracelet. It might have been a chunky man bracelet.
That says, like, bums, or, like, I like women, or, like, beer on it. Something cool like a man would like. Or, like, cars.
Yeah.
Or, like, football.
Okay, the new.
Right, okay. So she says, we can do whatever you want to do tonight, eh? And then out comes Harry. He's like, hello everyone, I'm a child. And gives him a card. Homemade card. Yeah. Beautiful. So what I've always wanted, thank you. In the bistro, Adam tells Nick that a group of locals are going to protest the late licence. But Sarah's like, don't talk about that now. It's his birthday. It's his special day. It's his birthday boy. And Damon comes in while Adam and Sarah are eating what looked like the most horrible soup I've ever seen in my life. It was like literally like a pile of vegetable puree with a bit of bread stuck in the top of it.
It's haute cuisine, Gemma, you wouldn't understand.
Haute cuisine. It looked like it probably was made of porridge. So Damon comes in and he buys them champagne. And Adam's like, come and join us. And Sarah's like, oh God, not this, is awkward.
Hello.
Sit next to me, Damon.
They're probably playing footsie under the table, weren't they?
She's like, oh, Damon's sitting next to me. I'm suddenly really warm. Oh, I'm going to take my jacket off so our arms can touch each other on the skin. Anyway, Nick overhears Maria telling Sarah that she wasn't the only one to complain about the late licence, and everyone, including Damon, has a go at her for trying to sabotage her husband's work.
Yeah, Sarah just gets dropped in it there, doesn't she?
Sarah,
by Miss Maria, she comes in and says, Sarah Louise.
Sarah, you remember you said that you didn't want them to open late? Why are you saying this in here, Maria?
Yeah.
Can I remind you that the council elections are on Thursday and I've got a vote. I can vote for whoever I want.
Yeah, you'd have thought that she'd have learned to be a bit more subtle about things like that in a council job, but clearly not.
No. So Sarah's like, sorry, from my point of view, I'm not the only one that complained. And Adam, what?
I'm just thinking, we assume that Maria then has been re-elected after a successful first year as a councillor.
Why wouldn't you vote her in? Look at all the things she's achieved.
Well, how many planets has she saved in the past year? I'm going to say somewhere between 0 and 1. Close to 0.
I mean, it's not 0, though, is it? We don't know. We can't really be sure. That's a good thing about environmentalism, isn't it? You can't really be sure if you've done anything. Just got to hope for the best. So Adam and Sarah sit in the booth and it's a bit tense and they start bickering about Damon. And she says, why don't we go bowling? Oh my God, I'd rather get beaten up by the heavies.
You're not a fan of it, are
hate
you?
it. She just wants to go back to the office, and he wants to go back to the office and get some work done because he is the most boring man in the world.
Well, no, he's annoyed because he's just found that his wife has been conspiring against his work. I know he said today, look, I don't care one way or the other whether they get it. I just need to have a client that can pay me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be also a bit put out if I found out what she'd been doing. Well, and she's not even know the worst of it.
Is the equivalent of this me like getting a job at Ofsted?
Yeah. Lovely Ofsted.
Lovely. So but Nick and Adam have a chat and he says you need to go on the charm offensive with the neighbours here to try and get them on your side because if they object you're not going to be able to do it. So also I bet you the thing is if I was Adam I'd say I'd keep my head down if I was you because if they find out that you've got a bar here in the middle of a residential area they might say you shouldn't even be here in the first place and kick you out. Wow, you don't even, why is there a bar, why is there a restaurant at the end of your road? It's a bit weird, isn't it? Anyway, Damon
catches... At the end of some road.
Yeah, but normally it's got other shops and things.
It's got a corner shop.
Damon catches Sarah in the street and she's like, leave me alone, you sexy beast. And he says, no, I want to turn the bistro around and we don't need to mention the hot love-making session unless you can't help yourself. And Sarah's like, oh, you're so full of yourself. But I do like a confident man. But not you, though. You're horrible. And she leaves him alone.
I think you're overdoing it slightly.
They're both like going...
The feeling was definitely still there.
Oh, we can't. But I want to. But we mustn't. But we should. No, not again. Leave me.
And so on.
Etc. On Friday, Adam apologises Sarah
Sarah
apologises to Adam about yesterday, and they give each other a hug. And Adam says,
they're cool with each other.
I need as many clients as I can at the moment. And can we also just mention that earlier in the week, Adam was trying to make fajitas wearing a 3-piece suit.
Was he? I missed that.
What is wrong with this man? He's like, I need the work, and you need to apologise to Damon as well because you're screwing up. He's like my boss, and you're screwing up his business plans. And she's like, I know how to say sorry to Damon.
Oh, Damon screwing.
Oh, I didn't do that. What do you mean? Oh. Sarah goes to the bistro and walks straight into an argument with Nick. And she tells him...
How long is it going to be until she finds out she's pregnant? When was the double bonking? Was it about 3 weeks ago?
Double bonking.
How long does it take for ladies to find out they're pregnant?
Michael.
I don't know these things. Month? 2 months?
When you miss your period, I guess.
I guess so. Oh yeah, so maybe
How
sometime
would I know?
soon. You're a lady. Don't you talk
With
about
all
these
my
things when you
great
go to the toilets
experience,
together?
All these secret children I've been stashing in the basement. So, yeah, so I really like this argument actually between Nick and Sarah because they were being really petty.
They were being great sibling-y
yeah, proper good sibling like arguments, like the kind we used to get between David and Sarah, and also even though they're not related, a bit like David and Maria when they both worked in the salon together. I miss that kind of like silly sibling type arguments. So she says, you're wasting your money on a license. You're never going to get it. You're just going to annoy everybody. So Nick...
And is this when she talks about Gail not wanting it as well?
Yeah.
At some point she tries to make out that their mum is not going to be wanting this.
So Nick decides to organise a meeting he goes to the pub and they're all there reminiscing about the war. I mean the coronation. And he says, come to the bistro later to talk about the late licence thing. I'll promise you I will assuage all your fears. And Rita says, will there be wine? And he says yes.
Sign me up, says Rita. It was basically a grab a granny, wasn't it? It's like, where's the load of people that have got nothing better to do in the middle of the day?
Who can make trouble for me because they've got nothing else on. So they gather in the bistro. And Nick and Leanne are trying to talk to them about it, but everyone's like, "Where's Damon? Where's Damon? If he wants a late license, where is he?"
I didn't
Why
really
do
get
care?
why they wanted Damon so
This didn't
much.
make any sense. This was just a silly. I thought this was silly because they don't know Damon from Adam, and why would they?
No, so that's going to be Sarah's excuse when she gets caught out.
Sorry, Damon.
I thought he was you.
So, so Nick and Leanne are getting really flustered. I mean, doesn't sound like them. Very out of character. So he finally arrives with his black eye, saying, "Oh, some toe rag tried to steal money off me." And Brian's like, "Nobody believes you," and everyone thinks that he looks dodgy. And I don't think they get anywhere with trying to convince people that this late license is a good idea.
No, not particularly. Oh God, Bennett.
I mean, honestly, this is the sort of thing that is just kind of tedious and stupid.
Really
but at
is.
the same time, this would have been high drama in the 60s. And we would be watching it going, "Oh, they should have this on Coronation Street now." Imagine how...
that Ina Sharple, she's going to march up that town hall and put Sarah 2 pennies worth.
Can you imagine it like being a massive, like, week-long drama in 1965 about whether they're going to get a late license?
That's the thing. It maybe would be a week long, 2 episodes, and it'd be done.
Yeah, that is
and
true.
And it's just kind of dragging out. And it's not been going on for how long's it been going? 2-3 weeks, this story? But I'm just not feeling any kind of excitement or anything related to this. Are they going to get it? Are they not going to get it? I don't know.
I don't care. What difference is it going to particularly make? But I did like their chat about whether it's a more banging tune to sing "God Save the King" or "God Save the Queen," and which makes more sense.
Which one sounds nicest, Ing or Een? There was also there was a bit of a shout out to the graffiti club again, wasn't there? With Ken remembering that. It was very, very boring.
It wasn't really boring.
It had Damon, who
felt irrelevant.
It felt fillerish, but without being filler, because it's clearly part of the big. Damon's the big a big bad this year.
He's not a big bad though.
Big a bit naughty.
Right.
I don't know. I want to move. I couldn't care less about whether there's going to be a boundary dispute. Not a boundary dispute. Late lights. I don't even know what they're talking about.
I think the thing about it is with Damon and Sarah and Adam, as far as although I think that Sarah's been a dozy cow, I also don't like Adam and Sarah together, and the idea of her running off with Damon is kind of funny.
I said at the time, when they had that scene in the hotel, there clearly was lots of electric chemistry and everything between the two of them.
There's way more chemistry between Damon and Sarah. They've got more sexual chemistry together in one scene where they're telling each other to bog off than Adam and Sarah had on their wedding day.
Yeah. I've really struggled to buy Sarah Louise in a relationship with anyone. Like lots of people were real fans of her and Gary, and I didn't see it. Her and Adam, no, not really. I don't know whether she's ever had a boyfriend where I've thought, that they could make a really good couple together, and I don't know what I want, because I do genuinely really like Sarah Louise as a character a lot of the time, and I think that Tina is a fab actress, but. There's just something I don't know what I want from a partner, but it's not either of these kind of characters. She definitely is attracted to the dodgy guy. Maybe I want her to have somebody that's a little bit more vanilla.
I want to make it very clear also that I still think that everybody's acting within character.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And I think that they're I'm enjoying being wound up by Sarah and Damon just being outrageous flirts. And I kind of like it now. I like it. I think it's great.
Okay. Oh, good for you. Right, let's do the Amy storyline. So Amy and Aaron and everything. So that was Monday and Wednesday. And Amy has her little her drama on the bus on Monday episode, doesn't she? Because she tells Steve and Tracy she's going out to town with a mate later, and they're just pleased that she's kind of getting out a little bit, but they're somewhat overprotective of her as well. So she goes on the bus and she has an over-edited panic attack, doesn't she? There's a bit of old shaky screen, there's a little bit of the sound effects, and if you watch the scene back, you'll notice that they drive past the same bus shelter at least 3, maybe 4 times over the space of 10 seconds. And she's like, I'm not having any of this. I'm getting off. So she's clearly still, it's demonstrating that she is still
being affected
by in the aftermath of the rape, and she's worried that people are looking at her, and she's worried that she's feeling very vulnerable,
struggling.
We also have a return of Aaron's dad this week. He comes to find his lad in the cafe and says, "Oh, your nan's died. Sorry about that." And also, Abby, thanks for looking after him.
I'll tell you what would be quite handy now is if he gave Summer back that 10 grand.
We find out...
Do you not think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she could use it, couldn't she, for Paul?
Yeah. We find out that...
Here's a question. Sorry to interrupt you, but do you reckon Summer might rent her womb out again for Paul this time?
For Paul?
So she can raise money for Paul?
Oh, I thought you were going to say...
What, so he can have a kid? That's
Well,
this is going to be a test of how good she really is as a person. Because she was perfectly willing to sell her baby so that Aaron's dad could go to rehab. But now Paul's got MND. What's she offering?
Yeah.
A leg? A kidney?
Have you noticed, and I don't want to, tempt fate or anything at the moment, but we're kind of not in the middle of a Summer story, and Summer hasn't been dominating the show for a little while, has she?
No.
They're giving Harriet Bibby a bit of a rest. That's nice. Anyway, Aaron's dad's he's chatting, and it becomes apparent that he
comes to impart news.
I said this. I said that his nan's died. Yeah, I said. And he also he brings up the fact that he knows that Aaron has split up with Summer. But he says, Aaron's told me that he's seeing someone else now.
This was really confusing.
Anyway, Abby looks a little bit quizzical about this.
Aaron.
So Aaron's obviously not being straight with his dad about what's been going on. Fair enough. So Steve finds Amy back at the house later after the whole bus incident, and she tells him what's happened and how embarrassing it was. What happens if I, when I go back to university tomorrow and I have another meltdown in the lecture? And he says, "Oh, let's play a board game together." So
what board game? Cult Express, good one.
Okay, Aaron, Abby, and Dad, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, are in the bistro later, and then Steve and Tracy come in as well, and they have a bit of a standoff with Abby by the door, and Abby's like, "Look, Amy has admitted she was wrong about the rape. You're still then holding a grudge against Aaron. It's not fair. He didn't do anything. Leave it alone." And then it kind of gets a little bit personal, doesn't it? With them calling her an ex-smackhead and stuff. And to be honest, Abby could have brought in the murderer thing if she really wanted to go for a low blow against Tracy there.
Didn't Tracy point out that Amy's now saying the opposite?
I don't know.
She just said you don't know what you're talking about. I think she's trying to save Amy's... Because Amy's, trying to be more discreet about this, and it's not necessarily that she told her mum and dad so that they could disseminate this information to everybody on the street. But at the same time, if this was my best friend, I wouldn't just call her a smackhead and leave. I would sit her down and go, I know you're trying to do the right thing here, and I know you like Aaron, and you don't believe this has happened, but it did.
Yeah, but I think
that's not dramatic.
Both of them are very
stubborn.
Yeah, they're stubborn, but they're also quite highly strung, and it didn't surprise me that they got into a bit of a...
Well, it's more fun.
A snapping way. I mean, to be honest, why hasn't this happened before? Because Abby has been on Team Aaron for a good month or so now, hasn't she? Why is Tracy only leaving it until now to have a go at her? But never mind that. So Wednesday, Aaron's dad appears again and says, "Oh, son, you can come back and live with me if you like. I'm clean. I'm getting my life back on track. How's about it?" And so he does. He doesn't want to at first, but Abby kind of suggests that it's a good idea. And he's like, your dad's reaching out to you. Don't ignore him. So at the end of the episode, Aaron gets in his car. Steve sees it, and he has a little mini celebration with Amy because they think that Abby has thrown Aaron out and that he's moved away from Weatherfield or away from Coronation Street at least, and maybe we won't see him again. Clearly, this is not the case.
So he's not left the show?
Who? Aaron?
Yeah.
No. As far as I know.
Why do you think that?
I would have thought I'd have seen something on social media about him leaving the show.
I think where this is going now is that... Because I think a lot of people were saying, oh, now he's going to live with his dad, so he's got away with it, and that's how they've written him out. But I don't think this was a conclusive ending.
Have people been saying that? I've not seen anyone say that.
So, but what I think is going to happen is that he's going to move in with his dad, And he's going to realise that he's in real danger of becoming his dad if he carries on drinking the way he is and losing control of himself. Because there's definitely this element here of the alcohol being involved and this family history of alcoholism. And so I think his dad's going to relapse with Aaron in the house. Maybe Aaron and his dad will get drunk together.
Yeah, maybe.
And he'll they'll get into a fight or something, or maybe Aaron will get drunk and his dad won't, and Aaron will say or do something that is quite out of a character for him, and his dad will say, "You're like me, like you're like I was."
I mean, we already had something similar where Aaron kind of learns a bit of a lesson last week with a whole tattoo on the forehead kind of thing, although he seems to be over that now. But maybe.
You know what they say, Michael?
What?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him think.
Very true. Yeah, so that happened. It was fine. Nothing much to say about that, although I'm still wondering, like, what's going on with Kevin? When's he coming back?
Kevin's
I don't
loving
really know.
the Bratwurst.
Reckon.
Oh, I think he is, yeah.
Right.
Maybe he's eating lots of Black Forest Gatto.
Maybe.
Shall I do
the
about
boat
friendship?
Storyline. Yeah, what's been going on there
On
the high
Monday,
seas?
George comes home at lunch because he just wants to go on his boat again. He's loving it. And he gets into a spat with Todd because he's moaning about Marmite and Todd's moaning about the mess, and then the bosun gets snapped in half.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not even sure what a bosun is.
Isn't the bosun the one, doesn't he sit in the crow's nest at
I
the
thought
top?
the bosun was just like the sort of, we're not going to say it, but he's actually Captain Hook's gay friend.
Is it? Oh, maybe he is a bit of a Mr. Smee, yeah.
You know that they're in a relationship.
Do you think so?
Disney would never admit it.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is
well,
true.
you know, streaming on Disney Plus now.
I'm pretty
Peter
sure.
Pan and Wendy.
Is it Bob Hoskins and who was the other guy?
Don't remember.
Who played Hook? I think they said they played them as a gay couple.
Oh, okay.
But I think that's brilliant. It makes it even better, that film. I love Hook. It's my favourite movie of all time.
No, it's not, you big liar.
So Brian comes in to chat with George in the pub, and he's a fellow shipbuilder. Who would have ever thought?
Well,
and
yeah,
Tom's like, I can't believe this.
He's kind of said, I have not been able to do it since Julie. But back in the day, I used to be mega into building model boats.
He used to sit there sniffing glue all night.
He does seem I quite enjoyed seeing Todd's exasperation at these two during the week. Todd still, I'm thinking, crying out for a proper, decent storyline.
Yeah.
What is going on there? Todd should be a major player, and he's just the right age. You know, yeah. He's our age, isn't he? He's 40-ish. Why is he so just in the background?
He's in his very late 30s, like us.
Oh, I am. Why isn't he got? Why is there no big Todd storyline apart from I'm being a bit sneaky with trying to steal Billy back?
So, Todd gets back later and they're gluing things to the table by accident, and Brian's inviting himself over for dinner because he wants to help them. He wants to help this shipbuilding exercise, and he wants to bring over his half-finished model of the Endeavour so they can work on it. And then Todd can't believe it when he comes down later and he sees them both. There's two boats on the go, and they say, "Oh, will it only be for a few days?" And then he realises they've glued his mug to the table.
Oh.
No. On Wednesday, George and Brian are having a late start at work because they want to build the ships a bit more, and George has got his golden hind. Yeah,
what was it called? Maidenhead. That's it. This whole story was just ripe for the innuendo, wasn't it? Like,
somebody just wrote into Google funny, sexually suggestive shipbuilding terminology.
I'm surprised that they've not talked about the poop deck yet, which is a classic immature bit of
It's like they did it on purpose.
So they had George accusing Brian of taking his maidenhead later. They talked about even rear admiral and everything.
And also the model seaman of the year competition.
Seaman.
Come on, man! I want them to. You know what I would really love to see? A scene with Brian and George in the pub with Peter there, and they're trying to engage him in conversation about all their lingo that they know about ships, and he's like, I really could not give two hoots, I don't care. And this is a man who's got a book about the Navy in his house.
Oh, he's got mermaid tattoos all over him, doesn't he?
So yeah, like we mentioned, Brian tells George that he wants to enter the competition for the model seaman of the year, and he wants George to be his rear Admiral. And back at the house, George is panicking because he can't find his maidenhead, and he accuses Brian of stealing it. And it's all fun, isn't it? It's great. It's fun.
This is definitely better with Brian. It's still like the fillerest of filler storylines, but at least it's low stakes and it's not one of these over-edited, dark, depressing, miserable messes of a storyline.
But it's not like...
But when it was a scene of these guys came on, I was like, okay, I can kind of
I
stop
really
paying
like
attention
those.
for a bit.
I like Brian and I like George, and I like the idea of them building ships, and I just love anyone who's into things, even if they're silly. To me, I think there's
still just not a story there, is there? They're literally just building boats.
It's very reminiscent of Norris and Mary and their competition entering.
A little bit.
Do you not think? This is how they used to bond.
Right, from Brian to Ryan, not much going on really.
Ryan's carefully standing so that you can only see a 3/4.
He was a little bit, wasn't he? No, we did get to see a full-on space scar.
It was interesting to me that the camera angles they were using on Ryan, because you know that they did that full makeup. I can't imagine that scene took more than a day, surely.
No, it couldn't.
Was it over more than one day? It doesn't make sense if it was, but they obviously did all the makeup on, but you could only see it in a very few amount of shots. So they obviously are trying to acclimatise. This is my conspiracy theory.
Go on.
They're trying to acclimatise the viewers to only seeing him from that angle, so they can get away with just not doing it sometimes.
Do you reckon they'd try it?
Do you not think it was like really, like, you're like watching it going, I want to see.
There were bits where it was like,
it.
you can't really see much scar here.
It was like a red light, like a kind of... Anyway, continue.
Anyway, he just basically finds out that Carla and Peter have cancelled a trip away because they want to look after him, and he's saying to Carla, look, you don't need to look after me, I'll be fine.
And then he phones.
And then so when they decide, yes, okay, let's go, he tries to give Crystal a ring, which is kind of interesting because he's had contact with Crystal for 2 weeks now, maybe, and surely he's never spoken to her on the phone because it is actually Daisy on the other end. So it was interesting that he thought he'd give it a crack at this point. Why hasn't he tried it before? Or maybe he has, I don't know.
Is he one of these horrible people that likes to talk on the telephone?
You're a bit odd for not.
I'm completely normal. I think most people, if you said, I'll phone you up or I'll cut your little finger off, the people would be like, which hand would you like to cut the little finger off of?
Anyway, so this is just building into a storyline for next week, so expect plenty of Daisy and Ryan. I'm gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if this time next week Ryan knows about Crystal's true identity, or Daniel finds out that Daisy is posing as Crystal.
Daniel's never going to find anything out.
He's not going to be too happy about it. Well, he's got his own problems now, hasn't he?
Can I just quickly give a shout out to Debbie for her undying loyalty? Because she was around asking about Ryan. How's Ryan?
Oh yeah, she was, wasn't she?
And, you know, they've got this bond now because they're both crims together, and he took a bullet for her. And so now she is looking out for him, which I think is fantastic. And so was her outfit.
Yeah, I loved her marching around Carla's flat like a little yappy dog.
Why aren't you looking after him? Anyway, Mac's sentence. On Friday, David tells Gail that Max might be considered for early release.
Ooh.
But he doesn't want to get his hopes up. So he goes to visit Max, who, as we said before, is feeling the breeze. And he's pretty down. He's not getting any revision done. He's got his exams coming up.
He's having a rubbish
what's
time
the point?
in prison. It's not fun for him.
Daniel arrives at the prison. See, whenever I think of like a prison sentence, I always imagine it the same way I always imagine a really long plane flight, where you think I'm gonna be stuck here, and I'm gonna read this book, or I'm gonna do this work, or I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah,
and then when
really
you get
productive.
there, you're like, I'm just gonna eat these peanuts and watch the movie. So so when he doesn't want to do his revision. I guess he's doing his A levels. Or his GCSEs,
I think.
So Daniel arrives at the prison for a writing class with Max and the other lads, and I think he thinks he's Michelle Pfeiffer. You know, when she does the, you know, got to reach these kids, I'm going to teach them about, and they're like, yeah, miss, you're so cool. But he's just like a boring.
Well, he's a Mr. Schneebly.
No, he wishes he was.
Schneebly. He does. That's probably who he was trying to model himself on.
No, he's just a boring bum, and he thinks he's like, yeah, I'm cool and young.
I'm Whoopi Goldberg in Sister Act 2.
Exactly. There are so many great fictional examples of teachers that go into the hood to help the children to go on the right path, but they're too late.
How
it's too
can
late.
I reach these kids?
And there's like a bully there. There's people. There's a wisecracking one.
Talking about going out on the town and bringing home 2 women last
He's
night.
like, let's write a fake journal entry, and they're like, yeah, and then they're writing all this nonsense, and Daniel's like, I can't believe these felons won't take my creative writing exercise seriously. What's wrong with you, Daniel? So he's getting really mad. He gets distracted when
Max says, I wrote my journal entry about a massive dump I took this morning.
Yeah, and I called it Your Mum. So Daniel's not impressed, and he has to. There's a fight brewing. He steps out to take a phone call, comes back in. They're having a fight. Puts his phone down, and then Max nicks it quickly. And Daniel doesn't notice. He dismisses the class, and when he gets back home, he tells Ken, "I don't know where my phone is." And Ken's like, "Oh dear, you should report it to the authorities." And Daniel says, "No, but I was being a criminal because I wasn't even allowed my phone in the class, so I'll get in trouble. So I can't tell anybody." And so we know that Max now has this secret phone.
Yeah.
And also,
which apparently does not have a lock on it.
No. And also, Gail has a stimulator to help her sleep at night.
That was kind of funny.
It was funny.
I think it was more
David's
David
reaction
that made it funny. The best bit was when it comes back later in the episode, because it was like a scene at the beginning where they were talking about Gail's stimulator, and David worries that it's a little grown-up toy. And it was kind of funny, but I was thinking, okay, well, that's that over with. But then when they bring it up again later, and David walks into the pub, and he hears them talking to Nick about the stimulator, and just like, oh, not again, and then turns 180 degrees and walks out. That was great. I loved that. So
yeah, this was part of the plot about the late night licensing, and she could sleep well, and she's got this thing in her hand.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine how something buzzing in your hand is going to make you sleep.
No,
wouldn't you just think you were rolling over on a hamster?
Right, so that was it for Coronation Street this week. I did enjoy chatting with you about it today.
I think we enjoy talking about the week more when it's a boring week.
There's just the most exciting bit of the week for me was Paul driving off in a car and then coming back at the next scene. So that's kind of how
where
high stakes it was. I mean, Stephen getting the life insurance policy was kind of exciting. So it's like, is he really going to bump off Elaine?
When Tim kidnapped Elaine?
No, wasn't feeling that.
I think this was a fairly standard 3 out of 5.
I'm going lower. I'm gonna.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
What,
I think to get a 3, it's got to have just a bit more of something that's. Yeah, that was quite good. That I enjoyed that, but the rest was a little bit dull. I just don't think there was really anything this week that really got my blood pumping. So you'll give what you scoring it? 3 what?
3 flashy carbuncles.
Okay, I'm gonna give it 2.5 massive dumps that I did this morning. And I'll write you more about that later. And I'll go on characters.
I was going to say, it also felt very sad and futile to me when I was watching Daniel try to direct their creative writing exercise, knowing that ChatGPT could have
I know.
Cracked it out
but maybe that's what
seconds.
Max is gonna do. He's gonna ace the prison class because he's the only one with a bum phone. It's probably a little bit big for that. He's got massive baggy jacking bottom pockets, hasn't he? But yeah, he's gonna be able to do all this ChatGPT and be the SWAT of the class.
Yeah.
Right, character of the week.
This is a hard one.
I don't think it is. I think I'm going to quite confidently say Dee Dee this week.
Oh, Dee Dee, that's a really good choice. Yeah, because she is good. She's slotted in very well in the street. I'm enjoying her. Yes,
she was maybe a little bit, didn't think about what might happen inviting Trish to come and see Paul. But honestly, she is doing her utmost to try and help and support him. She is saying the right thing about tell your friends and family. And like I said, the scene where Paul nearly stole the car, she wasn't willing to compromise her principles or whatever. She was like, I can't defend you if this is happening. So for a fair number of reasons, Dee Dee is my character of the week.
Well, I think I'm going to copy your homework.
Oh, that's very daring.
Because I think that's a great idea. I think Dee Dee should be character of the week. I just like her integrity and her generosity of her goodness in helping Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't realise that how they would react. Lots of people, when you get some kind of diagnosis like this, just dump you because they find it too uncomfortable. And she's facing up to it, and she's doing the right thing by Paul as much as she can do.
I got like a bit of a worry that maybe she's gonna drop him in it. She's just gonna say to him, I looking at how she's been, there's no reason why she would, but for a plot development driven thing to happen,
I think we've got
could she tell Billy or Summer, or even like bring it up to Aggie or something for some kind of medical advice?
Yeah, she could do.
Now that Aggie was back in it today for no particular reason.
If I was Dee Dee, I'd definitely ask her about
I don't want her to do that. I'd rather Paul broke the news himself. But it could happen. But anyway, yeah. Dee Dee is my character of the week this week.